Hello, I'm William Gallagher and this is Mac and N. One more thing, which, according to Tim Cook, this week we could be having this entire chat, you and I, using only our iPad Pros. Slight snag, I haven't got an iPad Pro. Have you? And what about you, Malcolm Owen?
No, I don't have an iPad Pro.
Well, actually, I'm not surprised, because I have to suspect, Malcolm, you're not even buying an iPad Pro this week because you're going to be far too excited about Apple Music finally coming to Android, and because we are also going to sort out your life. That's one more thing this week. Yeah? Ready for this? Yeah? Okay. Now, I haven't got an iPad Pro either, but I am actually very interested. I was waiting for so long to find out UK prices, and they were weirdly hard to get. But now, of course, they're here. £679 for a 32 gigabyte Wi-Fi only version. For comparison, in the US, the same model is $799, which actually converts to sterling at about £526. But before we all think massive Apple tax for the UK, US prices typically don't include tax, and I cannot understand that. And UK prices always include a lot of tax, so they may well be about the same. $799 for the base, but £799 for the 128 gigabyte Wi-Fi only, $899 for 128 gigabytes with LTE. I personally don't think you need LTE. I just tether through my iPhone now whenever I need it. I did think there would be more than 128 gigabyte versions available, but I'm sure I wouldn't be able to afford them if they were. My question though is, do you need an iPad Pro? Now, do you?
As we've brought more and more capability and more power to the iPad, we've been amazed at the new and unexpected things that our customers have done with the iPad. So we asked ourselves, how could we take iPad even further? Today, we have the biggest news in iPad since the iPad. This is the iPad Pro. It's the most capable and powerful iPad we've ever created. It is chock full of amazing advanced technologies and innovation.
That's from the launch of iPad Pro back in September. I remember the first time I picked up an iPad, the original one. I was really surprised at how small it was. I think just from the Steve Jobs holding it up and the pictures of it, I was expecting it to be about as big as the new one is. So clearly, yes, you need one. And I actually think the prices are pretty good for what you get with the iPad Pro. But what I don't know, what I really want to ask your opinion about, Malcolm, is whether the iPad Pro is well enough on its own, because there's also the Apple Pencil, £79, and there's the Smart Keyboard, £139. I'm pretty sure I could do without the pencil, though I secretly fancy it. I believe that will make me an artist. Do I have to buy the keyboard? Do you think this is one of those things like, I just put a book off ABE, books.co.uk, and it cost me 2p for the book, but a £5 for the postage and stuff. Is this Apple's way of getting more money out of us?
Well, not really. I mean, the nearest thing I can suggest looking at would be the Microsoft Surface. When that first came out, and last time I checked they're still doing it, you have to buy the Surface tablet section on its own, and then you've got to get the cover, and then you've got to get the pen, which does basically the same thing as the pencil, except it's Microsofty. And you have to get those separately, and these all drive up the cost. So this is certainly nothing new. This has been done elsewhere, but I wouldn't really call it price gouging, really. I'm sure a nice PR-friendly way of saying it would be for users to be able to optimize their spending based upon their needs.
I could hear Tim Cook saying those words. Price gouging. And the Microsoft's Pencil, or whatever they call it, the stylus probably, the Microsoft MS Stylus 4 plus whatever, they actually have these long names, don't they, with Express and Plus and things in them. You're saying that's the same as the Apple Pencil. Okay. I just think the Apple Pencil is a silly name. I don't know why. It feels a bit poncy somehow. Is that just me? But stylus, I don't like styli.
Well, to be fair to them, it does kind of look like a pencil. And also remember all the advertising they've had over the years for the iPad, with it being as thin as a pencil. Now they've got something they are selling that is a direct comparison.
That's true. I'd forgot. Those are great ads, actually, aren't they? You see it behind the pencil is the iPad. I'd forgotten that. There's a company called, isn't it 53? It does an app called Papers, I think, a drawing app. They have produced an iPad Pro pencil that is actually wooden. I mean, obviously not the tip and the stylus, but where you hold it, it's just like a very, very thick 2B pencil. And I quite fancy that. So I'm going to Paris shortly. I feel like sitting by the Seine with my iPad Pro and sketching people as they walk by. I often go into these things and feel you're just looking at me. The smart keyboard. I think I'd need the smart keyboard. I have a Microsoft Universal Folding keyboard, which I adore, but I think it would be dwarfed by this. And also, the size of the iPad, I think, makes it awkward to hold it and the keyboard together. So the smart keyboard, it feels to me like it's probably essential, but apparently at first it's only going to be available in the US English keyboard layout, wherever you are. I don't know why that is. I'm curious, and I can't remember the differences for it, but I know my fingers would find the difference. So that's actually why I'm going to wait. I'm not going to spend £800, £900 on an iPad until the keyboard suits me. Actually, forget keyboards. Do you know what the iPad Pro is likely to be like as a gaming machine? I mean, other than expensive.
I don't know off the top of my head, but I think the main thing here is if it's able to run iOS apps as you'd expect, then it's probably got quite a lot of games out there already.
The Omni Group just announced that they have optimised all of their productivity apps for the iPad Pro, and that's great, very interesting. But that suggests to me that one has to do something as a developer to optimise it. I'm guessing games. I always have the same image that games really stretch hardware to its absolute limits, so they will have to, I don't know, stretch it in different directions. Am I right? And we're not going to see games upscaled very soon, but then in time for Christmas there'll be brilliant things. Is that how gaming industry typically works?
Well, generally speaking, games are produced in such a way that for non-mobile development, so for on PCs and Macs, you usually have the sliding scale of the quality of textures and a couple of other things that you have in there. For consoles, because you have a fixed defined specification you work for, and you can do a lot of testing just on that specification, sure, it's going to be optimized for that, and it's not necessarily going to have all this extra weight of extra stuff it may not necessarily need. You do have a similar situation on the iPads. I know there's app thinning, which means that a developer can upload a load of resources for iOS devices, and only the ones that are required will be downloaded. So, in a way, you're gonna have a similar system working for the iPad Pro. So people are going to see all these high value resources coming down, but optimizing just for the iPad Pro. I can't think of how long it would take to really do that. It's basically just going to be a change in screen resolution for the most part.
That makes sense. But so I'm just going to cross my fingers that chess and Sudoku will be one day re-engineered to take part. No, okay. You see, I always assume you know everything about games on account of you know everything about games. And I get really interested in the kind of technicalities of what the gaming industry does, and also particularly how it drives hardware forward. But then I never actually play any of the games. I feel I'm missing out. And I think you agree, because we've had this discussion before. I would not use an iPad Pro for games. I just wouldn't. I'd use it for everything else. But if I did have to buy a keyboard with it, that starts putting it in the same price bracket as a new MacBook. And I've been using a new MacBook. It is utterly beautiful, and I love the keys for it. So I would actually be torn. Keyboard or whatever. Both are gorgeous. But actually, speaking of the word gorgeous, this just pops into my head. Let's take gorgeousness and park it over here. and instead look at something completely not gorgeous, something I actually just wouldn't consider touching. But I know you would, Malcolm, because I also know you've been waiting for it. You've been waiting for, and I've been using, is Apple Music. You've been waiting for it to be on Android, and now at last it is, isn't it?
Yes, it is on Android. You can now download from Google Play the beta, in inverted commas, version of Apple Music for Android.
Why am I concerned at the word? Well, I call it beta, but I'm in Birmingham. Why am I concerned at that word?
They've brought over most of the features of Apple Music. So you get access to things like the 30 million songs, you get the 3-month trial, you get the For You recommendations, Beats One and Connect and so on and so forth. But there are a few things that are kind of missing. So music videos, you're not going to get those for the moment. You also can't sign up for the family membership through the Android app. You have to do it through an iOS version or through a Mac.
That's interesting. That's the only bit there that I would think would be an issue, because the family pricing is great. I've gone for that, and though actually my wife Angela hardly ever touches Apple Music. When she does, we just know it's all there. Did you grab it the second it was out? Are you now on your 3-month free trial, and are you loving it?
I've installed the app. I've had a quick flick through. I was saving the setting it up for today so that I can get as many screenshots as possible for the upcoming obligatory hands-on with the app.
You sacrificed your enjoyment for the purposes of journalism.
Oh, come on, I can get music elsewhere.
Can you? Really?
I know other music things are available, yes. From the brief time that I've been using the app, Apple have basically said, we're bringing out this app. It's their second app. Well, no, technically speaking, it's not even their second app for Android. I think it's their first one that they've actually sat down and worked hard on themselves. The move to iOS app that they brought out a while ago, that's a white label app. So someone else made the app. Apple went, yeah, we could use that. We'll slap our branding on it, and that'll do. And they did. With this, it's looking at it, I can't think of another app they may have done that sort of thing with. They must have created it for themselves.
What about iTunes? I haven't seen it on hang on, sorry, I know iTunes is on Windows. Is iTunes on Android?
No.
Oh, well, it's definitely not like iTunes then.
But looking through it, if you ignore the whole fact that it's Apple and it's Apple Music, it's actually quite a decent looking music player. It wouldn't look, if you had a string of different music applications on your phone, you think, yep, that's a music app. It works, at least for the bits I've looked at so far, it looks and works as you'd expect it. It basically looks just like an Android app.
Yeah, you're not selling it to me, but I think you are selling it to Android users. I think I actually didn't like, there's a famous Steve Jobs line, isn't there, about the glass of ice water in hell when iTunes went on Windows. And I resent it when a Windows app comes to the Mac and is still the Windows app. Yeah, things are just in the wrong place. It just smacks of really not giving a damn about it at all. And it's one reason I'm not a fan of Final Draft. For all its benefits, it really is a Windows app on a Mac, and I actually think it's not very good on Windows either. It's like its lowest common denominator. You feel like you're writing in software from the 1990s or so. Something should be worked for the platform. Like I said, with games exploiting hardware, I think apps should exploit the software. Look, they are part of an ecosystem and they should belong there. So I like that Apple has done this, but I would never use the app. Are there other music players? I mean, Spotify, they must have an Android. Are they also fully Androidedness?
Oh, you mean in terms of using material design and other UI principles that Google have said, well, you really should use with Android? Yeah.
Good.
Many of them out there do decide to follow this scheme, and I think it does work quite well, and it's actually kind of shocking that Apple's managed to just go and say, yep, we will turn it into an Android app, a proper, fully fledged Android app, instead of dragging the existing version, kicking and screaming over to Android, and then hoping it works.
Well, that sounds to me in all ways good, but I haven't looked. I guarantee it's getting 1-star reviews on. I keep forgetting the name. Is it the Google Play store?
Yeah, Google Play Store. Yeah, within an hour of its launch, I was looking at the reviews, expecting to see people complaining about it, and yeah, there's people complaining about
Because
it.
I'm actually thinking, I don't know how much music you have. Do you have music on iTunes, or have you just been streaming on Spotify for so long that you're just getting new music from Apple Music?
I'm not using Spotify. I'm using Google Play Music All Access, but the sentiment's basically the same. My music's all stored in the cloud, although I do have access to iTunes on here, on my Mac and on my PC. I do still access it if I know that I've got to get a specific song, and I want to play that specific song. I know I could get it on Google Play Music All Access as well, but at least this way I've got it all offline, so I don't have to rely upon the internet connection. So in the event that the brother has decided to update every single one of his games in one go, which has happened in the past, especially when I was doing something important.
Cooking? No. Yes, it takes up your bandwidth. But sorry, do you mean as it stands now with Google Play All Access? You call it? Sorry, it was I don't know the terms. The Google equivalent of Apple Music. You stream everything, but you have it downloadable as well.
Yeah, you can. Like iTunes Match or something similar to that, you have the online locker where you can store up to 50,000 tracks, where Google will either upload or it'll scan through your library and say, oh, we got a copy of that track, oh, we got that one, we don't have that, upload that. So they have a record of what music I've already got, but then again, with the rest of the subscription that I'm paying for, I can still listen to anything I want. So it is kind of similar to well, not kind of similar. It is extremely similar to how Apple Music operates, at least. So most of this isn't really that new to me, at least from what I've been using.
That thing of Google uploading stuff it hasn't got sounds like iTunes Match, which is this separate service, and friends use it. I don't. I was very tempted. I don't think I need it, but honestly, I get very mixed up in the line between this and what my Mac and my iPhone are agreeing to signing up to when I press OK. But you kind of get used to it, I think, in the end. And I'm fine. I used to have I still have a playlist on my Mac called Discoveries. Music over the years that, the stuff that you just adore. You play it so much you hate it, I bung it all in Discoveries. So I have a list of about 150 songs that I've played so much I can't stand. I've now added another 10 through Apple Music in the last couple of months for it. So I'm finding it good value for that. But listen to us. This is music in 2015. This is Apple and Android and all the rest of them in 2015. Do you remember this in 1997?
I want to leave Macworld Expo at the end of the week with evidence that the Macintosh platform is still one of the most exciting segments of the computer industry.
Sorry, wait. I feel bad saying this, but no, you don't remember this guy. He's Colin Crawford. He was president and CSO of Mac Publications. I think that was an Apple division. I don't know. But this is the only notable thing he said.
I want my belief reinforced that the Macintosh platform is not just relevant in today's marketplace, but the leading age of technology. And to start us off in the right direction is an individual who really needs little introduction. After all, Steve Jobs has been around since the very first Macintosh. So please join with me now and welcome from Apple Computer, Steve Jobs.
This was Steve Jobs' big public return to Apple, really the first time he was seen in public.
Thank you very much for that warm welcome. Now I guess I'm going to have to give a speech. I came today to give you a status report on what's going on and to try to fill you in on some of the steps we're taking to get Apple healthy again. As you know, I'm the chairman and CEO of a company called Pixar, and thank you. And I, like a lot of other people, are pulling together to help Apple get healthy again, and I am extraordinarily confident that that is going to happen.
Now, that's what happened in 1997, but it isn't what was supposed to happen. What was supposed to happen was that Apple CEO Gil Amelio was to make a big keynote speech. It should have been him instead of Jobs. Now, wind back a few months to early 97 and imagine that you have been hired to write Amelio's speech. One interesting thing I learned from this thing I'm going to tell you in a moment is that Steve Jobs did write his own speeches, but Amelio didn't. So you are Michael Markman. You've worked with Gil Amelio before. It hasn't always gone well, but you've been hired back to write a script for the big new keynote. You've made your plans, you've had meetings, and you pull up at Apple, you park your car, you go into reception for your next meeting, and you're told, no, the meeting is not going to be happening, sir. Your meeting is cancelled. No reason why, no details. Now, listen on.
A few days later, I get a call to come in for another meeting at Apple, and I'm not told with whom. Just given a date, a time, and a location. It turns out to be a small conference room. Nearly every seat at the table is taken. I recognize some as members of Apple's events and PR teams. And there was the producer who was going to do the keynote. And some people I'd never seen before. Well, after we're all assembled and settled, the door opens and in walks Steve Jobs. He's energized, focused, earnest. He thanks us for coming in on a Saturday, and he says, Gil Amelio will not be giving the keynote at Macworld Boston because I will. Gil is out. So is Steve the new CEO? Apparently not. He's just still an advisor. There was no CEO at this point. But it's clear that Steve is taking charge, whatever his official position or lack thereof. He was the guy. Steve wants to brief us on what he plans to announce at Macworld so the team around the table can go produce the event. But first, he wants to know who's in the room. So one by one, going around the table, we introduce ourselves and explain why we're here. After each person speaks, Steve makes an instant binary decision. You can stay or you can go. One of the first to speak is the meeting producer. He lists as a credential that he had produced the general sessions for the Worldwide Developers Conference, WWDC, in May. Steve says, I think that was shit. You don't need to be here. Oh, that's what it's going to be like? Okay. And so it goes around the table. You can stay, you go. Stay, go. And in my head, I am hearing the clash. Should I stay or should I go? When it came their turn, I learned the folks I didn't recognize were Steve's executive assistant from Pixar and also another meeting producer, one that Steve was more comfortable with from working at Next. So they stay, obviously, there with Steve. I'm one of the last to speak, and I'm not sure whether Steve even remembers and recognizes me or not. It's been 12 years. He is very poker-faced. I tell him I was writing Gil Amelio's speech. I know that's not going to go down well, so I quickly add, I also make videos. But I think he knew that. Steve says, I write my own speeches. I don't need a speechwriter. Okay, getting ready to go. But I do need a video, so stay. He smiles. So I guess he did remember, because he didn't ask me for a reel. He just said, go do it. Before he begins briefing us, Steve has a warning spoken softly, slowly, with a very stern face. He says, if any word of what I'm about to say leaks from this meeting, I will fire everyone in the room. Look around the table. I will fire every one of you. And everyone in the room believes him. And I find that odd. I find that very odd because as far as I know, nobody in the room, nobody actually works for Steve except for the guy from Pixar.
That's Michael Markman, who calls himself Mikola. What Steve then told the group included how he'd rung up Bill Gates and made a deal with Microsoft and various other bits. You really listen to the whole thing. He tells the story very well. He just doesn't mention what a ridiculously bad move it was, having his Bill Gates video on this gigantic screen. Otherwise, it's a fascinating little tale. And I'd never heard of this guy before today, but Mikola, Mickeleh, has a whole series of videos, a lot to do with his time in Apple and working with Steve Jobs. So there'll be links in the show notes on macandn.com, but you can look up Mikola, Mickeleh, on YouTube and look at the lot today. Something else you can now do today? Yeah, Malcolm, come back. Malcolm, we need to sort out your life, don't we? I'm looking at you now. We've got to get you organised. Yes? Do you agree? We've talked about this before. Are you ready to be organised?
Go on then.
Okay. Malcolm Owen, an unwilling volunteer then. Getting things done is what we've actually spoken about before because it's come up on macandn.com. But as of now, we actually have a book about this. Well, I say we, it's me. It's all me. I have a new book out called Getting Things Done on iPads and Macs. Now, getting things done is not mine or Mac and N's, it's David Allen's idea. It's a productivity methodology, which Malcolm and I have talked about before. David Allen is a really, really smart guy. I use his ideas, I have done for years now, but I don't really know how to say this. He's a bit more corporate. I need somebody who works really like I do. I'm a writer and I use technology and stuff. I'm in the creative industries and I can't cope with corporate stuff. However, David Allen's also really into paper stuff. He actually sells paper notebooks that you can use for his process, and I am fully appled up. So I've actually written a book about how to do his methodology, exploiting your iPads, your Macs, also your iPhones, and actually a little bit about the Apple Watch as well. All the stuff I've already got, how do I use it? The stuff I'm carrying around with me. I'm always carrying my iPhone, but I'm always carrying too much to do as well. How do I get one to help the other? That's the purpose of the book, getting things done on iPads and Macs. It is available right now for a whole £1.99 if you're in the UK. Or if you're in America, it should be $2.99, but I keep checking, and for some reason, Amazon has nudged it up to $3.07. I do not know why. Is it that tax thing that Americans have to do? I can't fathom it. Malcolm, for Christmas, I'm thinking of buying you this book. Would you like that, and will you use it to organise your life?
Sure, if you're willing to buy me an iPad.
I'll send you the book, see what happens, and come back in about an hour's time and see whether or not you've written a novel, designed a bridge, taken an Open University course, and stopped looking at me like that. I want to move on to Thingies of the Week, but actually we have a special request this week. You've asked me to go first, and I'm intrigued. You want to end the show on a big finish, don't you? Is that what this is?
I want to knock your socks off with this.
Okay. So I'm pulling my socks up now, ready for maximum sockage, because I don't think my Thingy of the Week is going to do it to you at all. My Thingy of the Week is actually prompted by you, is Apple Music itself. Knowing that Android version was coming out, knowing that you were going to start your trial for it, I became kind of more conscious of what I've been doing with it this week. And that's when I appreciated how much I'd added to my discoveries playlist. I'm now is it getting on for 3 months into paying for it, and I'm now fine with that. I'm using it a lot and it's been worth the money. Join me. And that's it for my Thingy of the Week. I want yours. What's yours?
Okay, hold on to your hats for this.
Whoa. Hats and socks?
Yes.
All right. Okay.
You have the span. You should be able to reach both ends of the body at the same time.
I just rarely had the need, you see. That's what I'm questioning here. Shut up, William.
Okay.
I want to hear this.
My Thingy of the Week is Apple Music. No, I'll explain why. It's because every other music service out there on the planet has apps for basically every platform imaginable, because they want to expand their reach to absolutely everything. But now, because Apple has created an Android app, they've now at least basically said, we need more people, we need to spread this out to more people and get more people on board. But also, it's basically Apple saying, this is our service, we want you to enjoy using our service in any way you want, and if that means having to use an Android device, far be it from us to tell you to buy an iPhone. And I think it is an extremely fantastic holding the olive branch, or whatever the metaphorical item is, of peace over to the other side for them to grab and then leave 1-star reviews for.
Wow. Do you remember last week we could barely agree on the time of day, and now we've both been, this has never happened before, has it? The same Thingy of the Week. Do you know, I think we should just stop there while we're agreeing like this. So let me just say goodbye.
Goodbye.